Welcome to the Dragon's Den. My name is Leo Drake and thank you for spending part of your day with me. Please consider subscribing as it is free and gains you admission to the biggest movie battles, reviews and rankings on YouTube. If you enjoy the video, click the like button and ring the notification bell to be notified when I post a new video. In this video, we are carrying out our second movie battle. If you have not seen the first, I will put a link up on the screen for you now. Our first challenger is A Time to Kill, and it is up against Primal Fear. I will be discussing both of the movies during this video, so consider this your one and only spoiler warning. So let's get to it. A Time to Kill from 1996 is directed by Joel Schumacher and based on the book written by John Grisham. In Canton, Mississippi, a small town divided by race, two drunk men, Billy Ray Cobb and Pete Willard, kidnap, rape and leave a 10-year-old black girl for dead. Jake Brigance, played by Matthew McConaughey in his breakout role, has just finished renovating his wife's dream home. He took over a private law practice from his mentor Lucien Wilbank, played by Donald Sutherland, and he is struggling to pay the bills. The girl's father, Carly Haley, played by Samuel L. Jackson, visits Jake, who represented his brother in court previously. Carly is worried the boys will get off, and despite his concerns, Jake does not inform the sheriff. However, this story is not about these guys, as Carly Haley breaks into the courthouse during the night, and when the defendants are brought to the courthouse for arraignment, Carly shoots them in broad daylight. To complicate matters further, a police officer is caught in the crossfire and shot in the leg. Carly Haley is arrested by the sheriff, and Jake takes the case. Now, everyone knows that Carly Haley killed the men who attacked his daughter, but he pleads not guilty to first-degree murder. Brought by prosecution, District Attorney Rufus Buckley, played by Kevin Spacey. Jake attempts to get the trial moved out of Canton as he does not feel Carly can get a fair trial, but the judge refuses. Jake's defence is based on a plea of temporary insanity. He knows this will require expert testimony and asks Lucien to help him find a professional who can state in court Carly Haley was suffering from temporary insanity due to the attack on his daughter. This case is not simply about those directly involved. This is a historical capital murder case with far-reaching implications for everyone involved. Billy Ray's brother, Freddie, played by Kiefer Sutherland, starts a chapter of the Ku Klux Klan, and the NAACP raise money to help Carly's defence, but they want to replace Jake with a big shot corporate lawyer. Jake gets on TV, though he receives no new clients, and also receives threatening calls at home where his wife Carla and daughter Hannah are frightened. Carly is fired from his job at the lumberyard. His family still have to live while the case is heard, and he can't even afford to pay Jake properly for his defence. The NAACP raised $7,000 for Carly's defence and wish to replace Jake with Reinfeld, but Carly sticks with Jake and gets the money for them both. The sheriff gets an anonymous tip that the KKK are planning to plant a bomb at Jake's house, and the perpetrator is caught. Carla and Hannah go to stay with their grandparents as Jake refuses to drop the case. The case's reach expands beyond Canton with media interest, and Ellen Roark, played by Sandra Bullock, arrives in town. Her father is a famous lawyer. She is a law student and wants to help Jake defend Carly. Jake initially declines because he is attracted to her, and the case has already put him and his family in danger. The KKK attacked Jake's secretary's husband, and no one attached to the case is safe. Rufus Buckley plays Dirty, speaking with the judge and gaining information on the potential jury members prior to court. The jury selection is pivotal to the case. Jake wants men with young daughters and does not want women, rednecks or the elderly. Unfortunately, jury selection goes against Jake, and he ends up with an all-white jury with a cross-section of women and middle to elderly men. Outside the courthouse, the KKK protesters clash with the Free Carly supporters, and Jake is cut by a knife as he helps the sheriff escape the mob. The KKK does not relent as it burns down Jake's house. It is well over an hour before the case begins, and Buckley starts the prosecution's case. The DA calls Billy Ray's mother, who witnessed her son's death as he was shot by Carly Haley. Next, Buckley calls Sheriff Walls to the stand. He confirms the fingerprints on the murder weapon belong to the accused. Under cross-examination, Jake focuses on the deceased attack on Tonya, and the sheriff confirms Pete Willard signed a confession to the crime before he was killed. Rufus calls Deputy Looney, who was shot while escorting the prisoners to their arraignment. Due to the wound, he lost his leg and cannot perform his normal police duties. Jake gambles and asks Deputy Looney if he thinks Carly should be punished, and the officer says no. The prosecution expert, Dr. Roadheaver, testifies the defendant was sane when he committed the murder, but under cross-examination, Jake manages to discredit him by raising his history in the courtroom. In 11 years, Dr. Roadheaver has testified in 46 trials and never once found the defendant insane. During one case, the jury disagreed with the doctor, and the defendant is now a resident at the doctor's psychiatric hospital. Freddie Cobb tries to shoot Jake as he exits the courthouse, but instead he hits the guard next to him. Roark is stopped by a dirty police officer and taken by the KKK, who leave her strung up overnight in the marsh. The guy who tipped them off about the bomb comes back and takes Roark to the hospital. Jake begins the defense, calling his own expert doctor. However, he scores a big win by discrediting the expert witness, who was previously convicted of statutory rape, and the documents were sealed. Jake calls Carly Haley to the stand, and under cross-examination, he snaps.
Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell!
Jake counts the cost of the case. His marriage is on the rocks. His secretary left because her husband was assaulted. Deputy Looney's leg was lost. The guard who was shot. Roark's traumatic experience. But Jake Brigance cannot let the case go. Carly Haley's life is on the line, and more than that, the decision will have big consequences on the community. Carla returns to Canton to support Jake as the trial winds up. Jake visits his client as the case wraps up. Jake believes they will lose the case and suggests taking a plea. Carly Haley refuses. He knew there was no chance of him getting a fair trial. That's why he chose Jake, because he is the same as the jurors and the prosecution. Jake's daughter Hannah will never play with Tonya. They go to different churches and live in different worlds, despite occupying the same small town. Both sides give their closing statements. Jake Brigance gives a heavily emotional and inspiring conclusion, asking the jury to ignore all the legal machinations and put themselves in Carly Haley's shoes. What would they do if two men raped, assaulted, and left their daughter for dead?
Now imagine she's white.
A Time to Kill is not an easy watch, but when you reach the end, that emotion gives it a lot of impact. The film has a very strong cast, and I don't think I've ever seen Samuel Jackson give a bad performance. While this film is a courtroom drama, it spends more time focusing on what happens outside the courtroom. Perhaps some people might question the pacing of this movie, but all the characters and plot lines are really engaging. John Grisham is an expert in telling this kind of story, and the film is loyal to his narrative. I give A Time to Kill 4 out of 5 stars. Round 1. Fight! Primal Fear came out in the same year, 1996, was directed by Gregory Hoblit, and based on the book by William Deal. Martin Vale, played by Richard Gere, is a fearsome lawyer. A brutal murder shocks the city as an angelic altar boy savagely kills a bishop in his chambers. The suspect is arrested by police, covered in blood near the scene. Martin immediately wants the high-profile case. He meets Aaron Stampler, played by Edward Norton, in the holding cell. Aaron's story is that the bishop helped him get off the streets, took him into the church, and was always good to him. On the night he was returning a book to the bishop's private library when he heard a noise and went to investigate. Aaron saw the bishop hurt and believes there was someone else in the room before he blacked out and lost time.
But I didn't do this. You gotta believe me.
No, I don't have to believe you. I don't care.
Martin sends his investigator to Aaron's place, where he is attacked by one of the altar boys. Marty appoints a doctor called Molly to assess Aaron, as does the prosecution. Martin's case rests on providing reasonable doubt there was another person there that night.
Your job is just to sit there and look innocent.
Well, I am innocent.
The prosecution is led by Janet Venable, played by Laura Linney, who is Martin's ex-girlfriend. They are able to link a number carved into the bishop's body to Aaron, and Martin knows he needs something big to sway the jury. Martin and its investigator search for Alex, the other altar boy, and when they track him down, he confesses that he was looking for a sex tape filmed by the bishop of the altar boys and a girl called Linda, who was dating Aaron.
Everybody thinks you did this, everybody.
Martin is unsure whether to reveal the tape because it gives Aaron a motive for the murder of the bishop. When pressed on the issue, Aaron becomes angry and switches to an alternate personality called Roy, who carried out the murder. Martin anonymously gives the tape to Janet, who sees through his gamesmanship.
How can your timing be so good in a courtroom and so bad in real life?
Janet has everything but a motive, and with Martin Vale producing a stellar performance for the jury, she admits the tape into evidence. We get the usual expert witness testimony, which does not stand up to much, and then Martin calls the accused to the stand. Under cross-examination, Roy turns up and attacks Janet, forcing the court to accept that Aaron is suffering from a mental disorder and must be evaluated at a psychiatric facility rather than facing the death penalty. Primal Fear is an entertaining courtroom drama with an interesting protagonist played well by Edward Norton.
There never was an Aaron, counselor.
Richard Gere carries the film in his usual confident manner, and the story is interesting because the case seems clearly weighed against the defendant, so how are they going to get him off? The twist ending to the film is good. There are quite a few changes from the original book, some minor, others not. Overall, this is an entertaining film, and I give Primal Fear 3.5 out of 5 stars. Both these films are very good comparable courtroom dramas from the same year. A Time to Kill is not an easy watch, and if you're looking for something with a little less emotional baggage, then Primal Fear is an excellent alternative. But for me, the emotional weight of A Time to Kill gives it that added impact, and it stays loyal to the original source material, which is always for the best. A Time to Kill has a stellar cast, and no one messes with Samuel L. Jackson, making A Time to Kill the winner of this movie battle. Thank you for watching. Let me know what 2 films you would like to see in a future movie battle in the comments down below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, give it a like and share it. I'm looking to post a new video every Monday, so be sure to come back for that and click the link on screen to watch another of my videos. Until next time, hoorah!